I want to go ahead and get started with this story here about Barack Obama and Gavin Newsom. If you have not heard, apparently, it has been reported that Barack Obama has had a discussion with President Biden that he is very much concerned that Trump could win again. In fact, he was quoted as saying Trump could win. So you see, these are the things happening behind the scenes. I want to go ahead and get into this clip here first from Fox News, and then I have an article I'm going to dive into from The Guardian as well.
Former President Barack Obama has a warning for President Biden. According to the Washington Post, Obama had a private lunch with Biden in June, where, quote, Obama voiced concern about Donald Trump's political strengths, including an intensely loyal following, a Trump-friendly conservative media ecosystem, and a polarized country, underlining his worry that Trump could be a more formidable candidate than many Democrats realize, end quote. Vanity Fair summed it up with this headline: Barack Obama is also scared, blah, blah, that Donald Trump could win another term.
Now, let's pause here for just a second. Now, why is this important? Last election cycle in 2020, I don't know if you guys remember, but there were rumblings of Barack Obama telling Joe, like, Joe, you don't have to do this. There were rumblings of Barack Obama not really wanting Joe Biden to run for president. Now, I don't know if that's because maybe behind the scenes, Obama had already started to see some of this cognitive decline that Joe Biden may have been experiencing. Not certain, but could be a possibility. Or maybe because Obama didn't think that he could win. So these things have a way of getting out. And here we are again. The reality is, whether you like Donald Trump or not, he is increasing in the polls. Every indictment actually helps him in the polls. And it hurts Ron DeSantis. We'll get into that in a little bit second as well. But this is something that you cannot ignore and cannot be avoided. And the reality is, based on the polling right now, if the election were today, Donald Trump would win. Now, how do they solve that? They make it so that Donald Trump is charged with a felony and he cannot run for president. That's one thing that they can do. Or the donors and the media will find a way to pump up Ron DeSantis to make him appeal to be more desirable of a candidate. Because let's be real, Ron DeSantis is not really desirable as a candidate. He's not charismatic. He just doesn't seem, he's not warm and fuzzy with people. He's just not, he doesn't have that. And a lot of people had that. Bill Clinton had that charisma. Barack Obama had that charisma. Joe Biden had a little bit of that charisma when he wanted to, but that is very key. Hillary Clinton did not have that charisma, right? So let's go on.
Congresswoman Claudia Tenney of New York said this.
President Obama really has a stake in Joe Biden staying there. You know, many people think that he's the guy behind the scenes. Let Joe go. Let him get out of this thing without, by saving face.
But back when Biden announced his candidacy in April, Obama tweeted, support, let's get to work. The latest New York Times poll has Trump and Biden now in a dead heat. Molly Hemingway is a Fox News contributor and editor-in-chief of the Federal.
Now, I want you to look at this poll for just a second. Keep in mind, more than likely, this poll does not include, the third party and independent candidates. Just keep that in mind. Just Donald Trump and Joe Biden. This is coming from the New York Times. I actually believe if the matchup were today, I actually believe that Donald Trump would win, not Joe Biden. But that's just me.
Hemingway is a Fox News contributor and editor-in-chief of The Federalist. Mark Penn is a former Clinton advisor and poll expert. Great to see you both. Molly, I'll start with you. So Obama has gone from let's get to work to let's freak out. Why?
I think it is a reasonable thing for him to be concerned about. Even the 2020 election was remarkably close, with it coming down to about 40,000 votes across 3 states. And that was during a campaign where Biden had an excuse for why he couldn't be out running a campaign because of COVID. And you had the media suppressing all sorts of stories about the Biden family business, which are now coming to light. And you didn't have the actual, track record of what was happening in a Biden presidency, which a lot of Americans feel is not anywhere near where they want to be economically, in terms of foreign policy, in terms of crime, in terms of the southern border, all sorts of issues that now Biden would have to defend. So Obama's right to be concerned, I think.
So, Mark, do you
right, because now things are different. Now we've had Trump and we've had Biden. So it is going to be really interesting to see what happens here. But it's also very odd to me that Barack Obama continues to be this involved in reference to the presidency. He's still there behind the scenes. He's still calling shots as well, like he did for the 2020 election. Let's be real there, how he told people to drop out of the race. It is very strange to me that he is still this attached to the White House and still calling shots, so to speak. So that's someone you still need to keep your eye on. Even though he's not president, he's still very active.
I think Obama's also right to be concerned from your perspective on the left side of the aisle. And if so, what would you do to turn things around?
Well, there's no question that this race right now is a toss-up at best. Some polls like mine show Trump a couple of points ahead, others a couple of points behind, the New York Times dead even. The biggest problem that President Biden has is his job rating is low, in the low 40s, and his rating on inflation is about 35%. So what does President Biden need to come back and have a lead instead of a toss-up? A better economy. That clearly is the number one issue. It is the number one deficit that Biden has. He's got to both, I think, move somewhat more to the center to get moderate voters. Look at that huge undecided in this race, even though both candidates are universally known, says a lot of voters don't know, which one they would choose in this case. But the economy is the big issue that he really has to fix. And he's got a chance that a year from now, the economy will be better and inflation will be lower.
So you know what
We'll see. What's really interesting to me is when they say that he has to get moderate voters, as if Joe Biden is far left. He's not far left. I wish they would stop spewing this lie. It's really interesting to me as they make it seem like it's not a lot of moderate people that voted for him in the first place, because the reality is it is. There were a lot of us that sat out. There were a lot of us that voted third party or just walked away from this completely. So they continue to spew this to make it seem like that Joe Biden is this far left. They also consider to call him a communist or socialist. They're all over the place.
I always admire about you. You have such transparency around these issues. I mean, you really, and you're a polling expert, so you get that these numbers, they've been around for so long that they're more than just stubborn. My question for you, just to put this back on you, Mark, is why can't other Democrats see that?
Oh, look, I think some are. Look, I think the party is rallying around Joe Biden. You see his numbers going up.
Well, that's because he won't sit down.
They're all in on Biden too. I don't think there's any question about that. But they're also realistic. I mean, that's why they went out with Biden economics. That's why they're defending everything that's going on with Devin Archer and others. That's why they're trying to push, I think, their agenda forward. I don't think they're just sitting around.
Yeah.
Okay, let's come out of this because I want to say something. He said they all seem to be in for Joe Biden. Maybe there are recent rumblings when it comes to Gavin Newsom that may not necessarily be the case. We're going to get to that in just a second because I believe these two stories are connected. And I want to bring up this article here from The Guardian that says Obama reportedly warns Biden over strength of Trump 2024 challenge. Report says ex-president made comments at private White House lunch in June. I guess it's not so private now, but pledged to do all he could for re-election bid. Barack Obama has reportedly warned Joe Biden about how strong a challenge Donald Trump will be in the second election battle in 2024. Should Trump win the Republican nomination next year as expected, polling now shows Trump and Biden closely matched for a second presidential contest. At a private White House lunch with Biden in June, Obama also promised to do all he could to help the presidency get re-elected. And I think we all know what that means. It'll be time for Obama to make some more phone calls. Ring, ring, ring. Marianne. I'm going to need you to sit this one out. RFK, I'm going to need you to sit this one out. Dr. West, you're a beloved scholar, but I'm going to need you to sit this one out. So Obama will play his role as he has before. He goes on to say, there we go. The Post said Biden welcomed the offer of help from the man under whom he was vice president between 2009 and 2017. Biden, the newspaper said, is eager to lock down promises of help from top Democrats, among whom Obama is easily the biggest star for what is likely to be a hard-fought re-election race. Trump faces unprecedented legal jeopardy, including 78 criminal charges over hush money payments, retention of classified information, and his attempt to overturn Biden's yada yada. We know how YouTube is. He is expected also to face election subversion charges in Georgia, but his grip on the Republican primary has only tightened with each legal reverse. In Republican polling, Trump enjoys leads of more than 30 points over his nearest rival, hard right governor of Florida, Ron DeSantis. 30 points. That is how unlikable Ron DeSantis is. Trump has all these charges, and he's that far ahead of him. In 2020, Biden beat Trump by more than 7 million ballots and conclusively in the Electoral College, a result Trump refused to accept, stoking chaos culminating in the deadly U.S. Capitol attack. Biden and Obama's relationship has been the subject of widespread reporting and speculation, not least over whether Obama thought Biden should mount a third run for the Democratic nomination in 2020. As the U.S. Senator of Delaware, Biden crashed and burned in the primaries of 1988 and 2008, the latter won by Obama, 19 years Biden's junior. The two men then formed an effective partnership through 8 years of power. But now, in recent news, it appears that Ron DeSantis and Gavin Newsom have agreed to debate each other. Now, why do I feel these two stories are connected? Because I just find it pretty interesting that it is reported that Obama had that discussion with Joe Biden. Just a warning, I think Trump could win in 2024. And now we see Gavin Newsom kind of coming out of the shadows again after that interview he had with Sean Hannity, that he is willing to debate Ron DeSantis. Now, last time I checked, Ron DeSantis is running for president. Gavin Newsom, not so much. Or is he? Let's go into this clip here from Sean Hannity about this debate opportunity with Ron DeSantis and Gavin Newsom. And I want to show you how this was proposed in the first place. It was actually Sean Hannity who brought up this idea to Gavin Newsom.
You might remember earlier this year, I interviewed California Governor Gavin Newsom not that long ago. I floated the idea of a policy-based debate, you know, red versus blue, red state versus blue state, between Gavin Newsom and Florida Governor Ron DeSantis. Here's a friendly reminder. I'll say, Governor Newsom, Governor DeSantis, economy. That's the only word I'm going to throw out.
Love it.
You, minute, then you go at it. Next topic.
Right.
And I'll moderate it that way, and you have my word, I'll moderate it that way.
I'm all in. Count on it.
You would do a 2-hour debate with Ron DeSantis.
I make it 3.
So why would Gavin Newsom agree to do that if he's not running for president? What does he have to gain for this? Or maybe he's thinking about running for president in 2028. Let's continue.
Wow. That would be... how many of you would like to see that? Would you like? Okay. Now, this would be a debate that highlights what are major political and philosophical divides in this country. You know, why is there mass immigration from blue states to red ones? How do you reconcile a lot of these issues that are so important? You know, states with high income tax rates against states that have low income tax rates or none at all, like in the case of Florida. What's the difference between a sanctuary state and states that actually respect immigration laws? What about the issue of America? Should we remain energy independent or restrict the use of fossil fuels altogether? Now, Vice President Harris recently turned down the opportunity to debate Governor DeSantis. Gavin Newsom says he's not only open to it, he'll do it.
And that's what tells me that Kamala Harris is out. If we're talking about someone running a shadow campaign or someone possibly trying to replace Joe Biden, that right there tells me Kamala Harris is out. Because if she has decided not to have a debate with Ron DeSantis, but Gavin Newsom has agreed to it, then that tells me that the Democratic Party has chosen Gavin Newsom to possibly come in and replace Joe Biden. Let's continue.
Now we ask Governor DeSantis. We welcome him back to the program. Governor, how are you? Good. Thanks for having me. Great to have you. All right. You heard Gavin make the offer. Your answer is?
Absolutely. I'm game. Let's get it done. Just tell me when and where. We'll do it. And here's the thing, Sean. I mean, in one respect, the debate between California and Florida, has already been had, as you suggest. People have been voting on that. They've been voting on it with their feet. They have fled California on record.
Let's stop here for just a second. I'll go back a little bit. So this is something that I mentioned earlier on Rising this morning. I don't think this debate is going to go well for Gavin Newsom if Ron DeSantis focuses on the economy. If he focuses on the economy. If he starts to get into culture war issues, that's a wrap, which is what he's running on for the most part, which is the reason why I don't think he's polling as well as he thought he would. But if he focuses on the economy, this could bring problems for Gavin Newsom. And I want to give a couple examples. California has the largest homeless population in the country. California, if you look at the top 10 states that people are fleeing, which he just brought up, people leaving the states, California is number one. People are leaving California and they're moving to states like Texas and Arizona. I can't make this up, right? So that is also causing another problem because now these states like Texas and Arizona, there's an influx of people coming from places like California, and that is actually increasing the cost of living in those states. You can't outrun cost of living. This is something that I stress heavily in reference to gentrification. When people say, oh, they'll just have to move somewhere else. As long as more people are moving somewhere else, the cost of living is going to increase there as well. Ask people who live in places like Austin, Texas, how that's working out. And their homeless population is increasing. So those are a couple issues. The other issue, if you look at the housing wage, meaning what you need to earn to afford a 2-bedroom apartment, just an apartment. Now, this is going off of that cost of living report we've discussed on this show for 2023. California is number one. In California, according to the cost of living report, you have to earn at least $42.25 an hour to afford a 2-bedroom apartment on average in California. So if Ron DeSantis goes into this debate and focuses on the economy, oh, Gavin Newsom is done. So I don't know why he agreed to this other than the fact that they are considering him to run because Joe Biden's doing so poorly. Let him finish here.
Been had, as you suggest, people have been voting on that. They've been voting on it with their feet. They have fled California in record numbers. Florida has been the number one state for net in-migration. We have the number one ranked economy, number one now in education, crime rate at a 50-year low. But in another sense, this is the debate for the future of our country, because you have people like Joe Biden. They would love to see the Californication of the United States.
That's a lie. Joe Biden is corporate. Joe Biden doesn't even want to give everybody health care. That's an exaggeration. Such an exaggeration. This guy is so not likable.
Biden may not even be the nominee. You could have Gavin Newsom. You could have Kamala Harris. And I think if we go down that direction, that's going to accelerate American decline. We can't see America decline anymore. We need to reverse American decline.
So if he focuses on those economic issues, he could win this debate. Afeni's in the chat. Afeni says Gavin Newsom is going to appeal to younger normie Dems, and that's why they are elevating him. I believe that. I could see that happening. There's another thing, too. I don't know if people heard about this, but Gavin Newsom has been on record saying he agrees with Medicare for all. But, you know, some people say they agree with it. That don't mean they really want it to happen. That doesn't mean they're actually going to try to implement it. But he's gone on record recently saying he agrees with Medicare for all, and he agrees with public banks in California. So apparently he is one of the people that has said, yes, let's put up the public banks. Let's go ahead and go for it. Be careful. Be careful, because you'll have, remember, he's corporate. So what you have now, because of that progressive movement, now you have corporate Democrats calling themselves progressive, agreeing with certain progressive ideas, even though they never intend to actually implement them in principle. So just be careful. He's one of those people they could bring into full, especially younger voters.
Let me ask you, because I know this issue of African-American curriculum came up, and my understanding is that you had a panel of predominantly African-American scholars build out the history of slavery, African-American history in the country. And you were attacked by Kamala Harris over that. And am I wrong in my understanding that these were predominantly, this curriculum was put together by African-American scholars predominantly?
Yeah, exactly. And one of the leaders was the former chairman of the U.S. Commission on Civil Rights. Kamala is lying, saying somehow these black scholars designed a curriculum to try to say there was somehow good with slavery. That is not true. They showed the injustice of slavery. They told all the stories throughout all of American history, including black history. And she's trying to demagogue it to score political points. But Sean, we fight back against that. We do not bow down to the media mob. We don't bow down to the left when they are trying to demagogue and lie about things that are going on in the state of Florida. So I've stood up for those black scholars. I thank them for their job, and they did a good job.
Okay, let me just come in here and say something. I'm really getting tired of people referring to people like Kamala Harris as left. The Democratic Party is not left. So they kill me with this. And I think Ron DeSantis is smart enough to know this. He went to Yale, right? I think he's smart enough to know that. But they're not left. But what's interesting about that comment that he made there in reference to the curriculum is that even African-American Republican politicians are against it. They've come out on record against it, that even they don't agree with what Ron DeSantis has done in Florida. Now, in reference to this debate, let's go on to this article here from the New York Times. Ron DeSantis accepts Gavin Newsom's challenge to debate on Fox News. The California governor had taunted his Florida counterpart for months. Now, with his presidential campaign struggling, Mr. DeSantis agreed to a debate hosted by Sean Hannity. So again, this could be another way for Ron DeSantis to get more points, to increase his polling if he performs well. Gavin Newsom, they both look silly in these pictures. Gavin Newsom looks like he should be on a soap opera. Like sands through the hourglass. These are the days of our lives. So I want to get started with this point here. Mr. Newsom has made no secret of the fact that he is interested in running for president, perhaps as soon as 2028. And Mr. DeSantis' own presidential campaign is being drowned out by the inescapable presence of former President Donald Trump, who led him by more than 35 percentage points in a recent New York Times Siena College poll. This is crazy. Both Mr. DeSantis and Mr. Newsom have sought to present themselves as the platonic ideal of a governor for their party and their state as a haven. Mr. DeSantis has moved Florida sharply to the right, signing laws that ban abortion after 6 weeks, restrict transgender rights, and advertising his rejection of public health measures. during the pandemic. Mr. Newsom has signed extensive climate measures sought to make California a sanctuary for abortion access for people from out of state, and recently called for a constitutional amendment to enact gun regulations. From the perspective of the current presidential race, though, Mr. Newsom is not exactly the sparring partner Mr. DeSantis would prefer. The man he actually needs to defeat to have a chance of becoming president, Mr. Trump, is threatening to skip the Republican debate this month. Very interesting, very telling times, right? Especially considering that even Trump doesn't even want to debate. Everyone's trying to get out of it. Everyone's trying to get out. If you have not had a chance to do so, go ahead and smash that like button, guys. Thank you. That helps me with the algo. But this is really interesting. I don't know what's going to happen here. It'll probably get a lot of ratings. It'll be really good for Fox, right? It'll probably be good for DeSantis if he does well. That might help him in the polls. But just be prepared next year. 2024 is going to be wild. So just be prepared. If you see Gavin Newsom just kind of pop up, just refer back to this moment. Just refer back to this moment. Going to go to some of the comments. Thank you for this, Roger. George Wallace in 68 was the last third party to win electoral college votes. That's interesting. Thank you, Mary. Sabby, it's more like they're priming Newsom to slide in place of Harris to become president via replacing Biden based on medical reasons. Ding, 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 ding. They could do that. They could let Joe Biden go through the entire, debate, all of that. And then after he wins, say, okay, I'm going to resign because of medical reasons. And Gavin Newsom's going to slide in. We don't know. We don't know. Thank you, Todd. Florida homeowners insurance has doubled in the last 2 years, and most companies won't write new policies. It's no paradise here either. Just saying. Yeah, I hear you. Hurricanes are rough. The hurricanes are rough. I hear you. Cheaper than California, though.